Okay, I think we're connected. Probably going to have a good connection today. The weather's clear here. Getting our international crew on board. We have Portugal, Alberta, and Iran so far checking in. Just about ready to start. Another few seconds, I think.
It's 6 o'clock.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So we're going to continue on with our series on the Pãramīs. And this week we're doing Virya, energy. Virya is a very important quality that the Buddha emphasized quite a lot, and it shows up in various forms in several of the lists. It's one of the enlightenment factors, one of the faculties, one of the Idipata, the roads to power, and it's one of the Pãramīs. The word virya has the root in it that vir, that via Latin we have it in words like virile, hero. So it expresses this the power of energy, of being energized, being mentally and physically active, having that resource. And the Buddha said that the goal is for the energetic, not for the lazy. So it's something that is definitely needed for any kind of spiritual progress. One must have an energetic approach. in the canon, in the stories about the Buddha, is often cited that his supreme effort of energy was before the enlightenment, when he went to sit down for his last sit before the enlightenment, that he made this resolution, that's a heroic resolution, that I will sit here until I reach full awakening, even if my flesh dries up and my blood curdles and nothing is left but skin and bones. This is a related quality of determination, that energy means when you undertake a task, whether it's a spiritual task or a mundane physical task, you put your all into it. You give it 100%. You don't approach anything in a half-hearted manner. It's one of the attributes of a fully developed energy faculty, or Pãramīs, is the evenness of energy. That whether the task is small or the task is great, that we give it our full energy. We put the full effort into it. As a spiritual faculty, as an indriya, energy is paired with samadhi, the stability or focus of mind, meaning that they're complementary qualities that should be developed together. And this is a very important aspect of developing meditation, is balancing these two faculties. As I spoke last week about balancing the faculties of faith and wisdom, the other pair that needs to be balanced is energy and samadhi. Meaning, if one is overdeveloped relative to the other, the practice is going to suffer. Samadhi is the calm, stable, unified mind, the mind that's able to stay steadily on an object. But if you have overdeveloped samadhi relative to energy, if the energy level is low, then the meditation is going to be dull and sleepy. And the samadhi becomes corrupted, and it becomes kind of like a self-hypnosis. It just makes you more dull and sleepy instead of a bright, awake awareness and focus. And I think everybody who meditates has experienced it at some point in their path, periods of dullness, of having a hard time staying alert and awake in meditation. That's a lack of energy. On the other hand, if energy is overdeveloped relative to samadhi, if you're full of energy, but you don't have that peacefulness and that stability, then the mind becomes very restless. And you can even experience it in the body as a kind of twitchiness, that the energy is overflowing, but it's not contained or focused. So how do we deal with this? These two extremes, and these are really the two extremes of meditation that everybody knows from time to time. If your meditation is not going well, if you're having a bad session, then it's almost always in one of these two directions. Either you're too dull and sleepy, or you're too restless and unable to focus, unable to sit still. So you have to first of all be able to diagnose what the problem is, see if, and to work on the opposite faculty to bring it up. So if you're dull and sleepy, that's not the time to try and increase your samadhi faculty. That'll only make it worse. Don't just try and concentrate harder. That what you need to do is raise the energy level first. And there are a number of things that one can do. There's a sutta where the Buddha is recalling speaking to Moggallana in his early days before he became an enlightened arahant. When he was just starting out, he had a lot of trouble with dullness and sleepiness, and the Buddha came and gave him some advice. And there's a number of things he said, like do walking meditation. One of the things he said was go outdoors and look at the sky, look at the stars. Splash cold water on your face. One of the things we can do in Canada in the winter is go outside and do a little walking in the snow barefoot. Now, that'll wake you up pretty quick. Or put a handful of snow on the back of your neck. You do something to shock yourself awake. One of the things the Buddha actually mentions is sounds a little odd, but it seems to be have some kind of yogic or acupuncture effect, is to tug on the earlobes as a method of waking yourself up. There's also in Tibetan tradition, they have things like that. One of the ones that I've seen recommended is to curl the tongue inside the mouth so the tip of the tongue is as far back, pressing on the palate as you can reach. And that's supposed to touch some kind of energetic point and energize the body, and then the mind follows along. Also, very important when you're dull and to raise energy is sitting straight. Now, if you're very energetic and meditation is going really, really well, posture is not that important. But if you're dull, you really need to pay attention to the posture. You have to sit correctly and sit straight. Keep the back up. Now, a lot of these things, these methods, you'll notice things like splashing your face or going outside and looking at the stars. They're not conducive to developing deep samadhi, and they're not intended to be, because samadhi is not the concern at that moment. You've got to energize first. So if the meditation is going really well, it would just be a diversion and a distraction to go outside and look at the stars. But if the energy is very low, you need to bring it up. Conversely, if the energy is too exuberant relative to samadhi, then the opposite advice holds. You want to do as little as possible. If you're experiencing restlessness in your meditation, then you need to make the effort, a supreme effort, to be still, to hold the body still to begin with. And this can be difficult if you're restless, because you get a twitchy feeling, you want to move and stretch and so on, but you have to bear through it and come out the other side. There's no way to overcome restlessness by appeasing it. Now, this is a common mistake that meditators make. People on retreat will, sometimes if they're having a difficult patch, they'll convince themselves, well, what I really need to do now is, go for a walk or do some exercise or read a book or sit outside with a cup of tea, anything to get away from the meditation. And they think that that after that they'll be able to really get down to it. But that doesn't really work. The restlessness will come back redoubled. You have to bear through it. You have to get through it to the other side by just sitting still and bear through the difficulty. You know? And then you use the energy rather than wasting it in restlessness. You use it in this kind of determined effort to make it through to the other side of restlessness. Another aspect of energy comes up in the formula for the Eightfold Noble Path. One of the factors is samavayamo, which is translated as right effort, and vayamo is either exactly the same or very close to virya. And right effort is defined in the context of the Eightfold Path. It's the effort to control the mind. And it's explained as fourfold. There's the effort to diminish and eliminate unwholesome states of mind that have already arisen, the effort to prevent unwholesome states arising in the first place, the effort to nourish and encourage wholesome states of mind that have already arisen, and the effort to arouse unarisen wholesome mental states. So the factors of samavayamo all relate to governing and controlling the mind. It's said that an arahant is the master of the pathways of his mind, and that only an arahant has fully that capacity. And we all know that from meditation, that the mind seems to have a mind of its own, so to speak. But the effort to control the mind and bring it under, put it into the service of Dhamma is a right effort, samavayamo. And to encourage the faculty or the parami of energy in general, in our day-to-day is to try and be energetic in all things. Some things that diminish the energy faculty, of the things that diminish the energy faculty, one of the worst is oversleeping. There's an old Chinese saying that he who sleeps more than 6 hours never wakes up. And while I'm hesitant to, people sometimes ask me what's the right amount of sleep, and I'm hesitant to put a number on it because I think it varies with your circumstances. If you have a very busy, stressful day, you're going to need more sleep than if but if you've spent the day in calm and particularly if you've been in meditation, then you really don't need very much sleep at all. You can get by with very little sleep. Another thing to avoid is waking up from sleep, that ideally one should wake up very quickly and not spend a long time lolling in bed, half asleep and half awake. That's very counterproductive to the energy level. It's a good practice to try and learn to wake up quickly. There's a meditation exercise that if you can do it, it's you can learn a lot from it. It's a very interesting practice. Is to meditate lightly on the breath as you're going to sleep, and make the resolution that you're going to attempt to catch the last breath falling asleep and the first breath waking up. And this is a bit easier if you've done meditation during the day and you're kind of in a meditative frame of mind, but it's a good exercise in any case. And if you can catch the first breath waking up, that's usually comes first. That's itself an interesting experience. It's like the mind turns on as quickly as you throw a light switch and the light comes on in the room. You're just all of a sudden wide awake. The other end of the passage into sleep is actually even more interesting, but it's also more difficult. If you can catch the last breath falling asleep, then you will find yourself crossing the threshold into the dream states consciously. That's a very interesting and illuminating experience if you can do that. And in terms of raising your energy levels, the one most important thing is that energy works like a kind of positive feedback loop. If the more energy you put out, the more you're gonna develop. So if you push through moments of sloth and laziness, and you make a habit of being energetic, then the energy comes more and more easily and more naturally. I think a lot of people find that the most difficult moment to raise energy is at the beginning of any activity. There's an old saying, well begun is half done. If you overcome that initial laziness and sloth and just get up and begin an activity, then the rest of it is relatively a lot easier than the initial push. You get through the initial inertia. So developing energy as a parami means overcoming laziness and sloth and reluctance, and boredom, and getting through all that and being bright and on. And really, an energetic psyche is not prone to depression. It cuts through a lot of negativity. And it's really necessary in meditation, not only for staying awake, but for development of insight. There's an energetic quality to discerning the true nature of phenomena. Is compared to a lightning flash or a lightning bolt, which is a very energetic phenomena. This lightning flash illuminating the darkness and penetrating the nature of reality. That's an energetic action. It's not a passive but an active kind of a mind. So in Tibetan Buddhism, they rely a lot on evocative symbolism, and you've probably seen the bell and the dorje that sometimes Tibetan lamas will have, one in each hand. Dorje is a stylized lightning bolt, usually make them out of brass. And the bell is, a bell that you can shake and it makes a sound. But the bell, the shape of the bell as an open enclosed space, that represents the void. And the void as universal potential, a full emptiness. And the lightning flash is the illuminated mind, and the illumination of this cutting insight. So the flash into the void is the illumination, and the two are both necessary. Sometimes the symbolism in Tibetan symbolism becomes sexual. It's associated, like the lightning flash is male and the void is female. And you can see that, where that comes from. And either one by itself is non-productive. It's sterile. But the two coming together, and the void is also cognate or associated with what we talked about last week of wisdom, panya. And we see that in a lot of symbolism around wisdom is that it's feminine, right? Like Sophia, the goddess of wisdom in the Greek mythology. Sophia is a feminine principle of wisdom, but energy and the lightning flash is male, and we have the virya, has that root in it, vir, from virile. So that there's those two components to the unfolded or awakened mind. It's kind of like the Taoist yin and yang. So without energy, you get nowhere. And also without wisdom, you get nowhere. You need to have the two. So finding that wellspring of energy within yourself and encouraging it and making it stronger and not giving into the indolence, which is the kind of inertia of existence. It's the kind of a factor of entropy that it takes effort, of at least a small degree of effort, to do anything. If we give up on making an effort, then we just sink back into a stupor. But that capacity is within us as human beings. We have this capacity for energy. And you can surprise yourself at how much energy you actually have once you start making an effort, make a habit of making an effort. And you'll find more and more wellspring of energy. So I'll stop there and stay online for answering questions. Let's see if there's anything already. There's something, looks like, here. When my psychiatric patients would come in bouncing off the walls, I found jogging meditation helpful to settle them quickly. So could we explore what was going on? Comments. Yeah, I could see that. That could work because you're taking that unfocused and kind of wild, scattered energy, and uh, you're directing it into a constrained activity like jogging. That could be a way of channeling that energy and containing it. For a patujana, can virya also be understood as courage? If courage to face glimpses of sunya, for instance, apologize for this clumsy question. No, it's not a clumsy question. I think it's a really interesting one. Yeah, virya is certainly very much related to courage. I don't know if it's exactly, I wouldn't say they're exactly the same thing, but you're quite right that courage is extremely important for deeper meditation, to be able to face that, to face the kind of existential fears of the void. And energy is certainly related to that. You have to have that energetic push to go on, and a certain with the courage and the energy, there's a certain warrior kind of uh, energy going on. You know, the Buddha was a Khattiya. He was a warrior noble, and the whole symbolism around cutting through the sword. Um, this is this is definitely part of it, an important part. When we want to look for energy in ourselves, do we look in terms of mind or in terms of body or both? And I would say it's actually both. That they support one another, feed back on one another. But what we're primarily interested in meditation is of course the mental energy. But if the body is energized, then that's going to support the mind. If the body is feeling heavy and sluggish, then it's going to drag the mind down. What should one do if one has a long-term illness that reduces your energy and makes your mind cloudy? Yeah, that's an unfortunate reality for many people, that they're because of their karma, they are existing in a body that has some dysfunction that reduces their energy level and that makes the mind, as you say, cloudy. We all have different obstacles to overcome, and some have worse obstacles. They all originate in our particular karma, where we are in the path. This is something you have to try and work with, and try and find an inner mental energy and try to bring that up as much as you can. No, it's not easy. We all have to deal with something. I was studying the Abhidhamma the other day, which you also mentioned in the Abhidhamma series, and the talk about the Arahant not making any future karma confused me a bit. Can an Arahant not teach others to, can an Arahant not teach Dhamma to others? Yeah, the Arahants not making karma, it doesn't mean they're inactive. They still do stuff. They can still teach others, for example, as you cite, but they're not making any fresh karma by doing that. Because karma is only made by a mind that has ignorance. So they're not making any karma. They're just acting purely out of either necessity or compassion. They don't lay any seeds for the future by doing that. So when they teach, it's a purely selfless action. It's just done out of compassion for others. They can't make karma because they've made an end of ignorance. If you look at the dependent origination, karmic formations come out of ignorance. One way of understanding karma is that because we're ignorant, we're blundering around in the dark, so to speak, and we're making a mess of things, and everything we do, we're unbalancing the universe a little bit, and then the universe rebalances itself and pushes back. So the questions seem to be coming to an end. I don't see any more questions. Give it a minute to see if anybody comes up with anything else. We'll make an end of the stream. Next week we're doing Kanti, patient endurance, which my crappy internet connection teaches me many times. If Arahant doesn't produce any karma, then how does one explain the mortal sin of killing an Arahant? Well, that's a bad karma by the person doing it. It's not the Arahant making any karma. I don't really understand the relevance of the question. Should those with those type of illnesses mentioned earlier that hinder making an effort to ordain as a monk if one has many food restrictions from health-related issues, karma? Yeah, there are actually, in the Vinaya, there are actually restrictions on ordaining if you've got certain diseases, and we're not even sure really what they are from the ancient Pali. Leprosy is one for sure, and maybe some others that are named that are highly contagious, I think was the idea. But if you have health-related issues, it would make it pretty safe. Like if one has dietary restrictions, that would make it very difficult to follow the Vinaya, and probably not impossible. But monks are not supposed to be fussy about their food. They're supposed to take what's given, eat what's given, and not be a burden on lay people by insisting on a special diet. So it probably, if you do have a highly restricted diet, you're probably not a suitable candidate for ordination. How can a Dhamma practitioner deal with unwise, dear family, friends, and their impacting on practice, mind state, and ultimate goal of life appropriately, without senselessly and completely abandoning them? A student does not have the right amount of skill to teach others, to bring them to their senses within the right framework. The results could turn very negative. Yeah, that can be very difficult. The burden of having unsympathetic or negative family members. Best thing is, only thing I could say is there's no perfect solution, is to cultivate compassion, have compassion for them. Even they're deluded, they need even more compassion, and don't try really to correct them or to dispute with them. They just let it be. Just let them be, and try to love them where they are, and not try and change them, because you probably can't. hologram Buddha War Rex. I don't know what that's about. I'm wondering if this passage is referring to a specific teaching. In the past, there appeared among the Magadhan impure Dhamma devised by the stained in the Ayachana Sutta. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to study into that. I'm not sure what specifically that's referring to. Maybe a bit on Wirya and yogic energy from the point of view of Vajrayana, if possible. Yeah, I did touch on that a little bit. I could also, add that something that's not much spoken of in Theravada is developing energy channels in the body, like developing Kundalini and the chakras. Is something that's been developed, studied very much in Vajrayana. And it's not entirely without merit. The body and the mind are, as long as we're in a human existence, the body and the mind are very intimately related, and they support and feed one another. An energetic body will help to energize the mind, and vice versa. So if there are skillful practices for raising energy levels in the body, they will also benefit the mind. Okay, so I think we'll close it down. We lucked out with the internet this week. I had some doubts this morning because it was such a heavy sky and thundering lightning, but it cleared up this afternoon, so everything's okay. So I'm on a satellite connection, and when the weather's bad, I lose my internet. Okay, I'll take my leave.